Hey everyone, my name is Mario Martinez, and this is Amateur Medicine. So, I thought it'd be really fun to mess with SkillStat again. I know they have a really good 6-second EKG strip, so I thought maybe we could do it together and see if you kind of remember some of the tips and tricks along the way of trying to interpret an EKG rhythm. I think they have a lot of really good rhythm strips. I think it's a very fun game. So, I just kind of wanted to jump into it and see how it goes. They kind of changed it up from novice to practitioner. But I'm going to start. I'm going to let you guys kind of think about what the answer is. I'm not really going for the highest score I can get, but I want to see what you guys think is the answer. I'll give you about my actual real time 30 seconds, and then I'll pick an answer. So we'll just keep going that way. So here's a rhythm. What do you think it is? I'll give you a moment to think about it. We see here that we have, I'm going to talk while it's going on though. We have a heart rate at 80 beats per minute. Also, what else can we notice? Well, we have some pacer marks right here, right? Can we see a P wave? No, we can't. Can we see a T wave? Kind of, not really. It's more so just an enveloped, elongated QRS complex. So what does that mean? Well, we're thinking, okay, we have a pacemaker here. Here's our pacer. We have this elongated or prolonged QRS complex. So in my head, I'm starting to think, okay, this is probably a paced ventricular rhythm. So let's see if it is. It's correct. All right, let's go again. So right here, we have a flattened P wave. We have a wide QRS complex. We don't really have a visual of a T wave. So what are we thinking is going on here? And I think I already have a pretty good idea of it. I just realized I'm kind of put in a spot where if I mess up any of them, it's going to be really awkward cutting along that. If I am going to even cut it, I might just be honest. I think that this is going to be an idioventricular rhythm. I mean, look at the heart rate. It's between 20 to 40 beats per minute. It's very slow. Again, there's no P wave, the long QRS complex or the wide. So I'm thinking that it's idioventricular. And it is fantastic. Oh, that'd be so nice if I could just get all 10 of these right. Let's go again. Okay, what do we have here, guys? So take a moment to look at it. I'll give you a second. See that our heart rate is at 84 beats per minute. What do you think it can be? And don't be afraid to just pause the video if you need more time interpreting it. So we can see here that we have our P waves here. But sometimes we don't really see our P wave. What else do we see? We see our QRS complex is nice and tight. The P wave matches with the QRS each time. They're spaced out in a weird way. So I'm guessing that this is a sinus rhythm. But what's going on? We have these beats that don't seem to have a P wave every time. They have a T wave though. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a normal sinus rhythm with a PJC or a premature junctional complex. Why is it one with the PJC? Well, we can see here that they still have the T wave, but the P wave isn't present each time. And what is a junctional rhythm? Well, it's one where it either has a flattened or a inverted P wave. We can't see the P wave, so we're thinking, okay, this is probably junctional in some nature. But it's a premature junctional complex because it only happens sporadically with each beat. Now, I think in this one, they also have like a 2-to-1 type of rhythm, which is interesting, but maybe we'll see it later on. That has its own kind of rule set. So, you ready? We're going to start again. Okay, now what do we think this rhythm is? Oh, shoot, this will take me a second. So just think about it while I panic and try to think about it too. Okay, we have a heart rate at 60 beats per minute. And what do we notice that's glaringly obvious about this rhythm? Well, I can see these pacer marks right here, right? So immediately I'm kind of thinking, okay, it's going to be a pace rhythm. I've only got like 2 options or so with pace rhythms. But also we can see here that we have a P wave here, and this pacer is actually assisting with this P wave. We see here we have an abnormal kind of T wave. We have the nice and tight QRS complexes. So I'm going to say that it's a paced atrial rhythm. And it is. And I'm not really too familiar with paced atrial rhythms, but what I can say is once I see a pacer mark, I know that the rhythm's going to be all jacked up. This is actually a pretty decent one. But in real life scenarios, once we see a pacer mark, we're just gonna kind of tell like this EKG rhythm is gonna be a little funky. If they're not complaining of chest pain, then I'm really gonna treat the patient more so than treat the rhythm. So we'll go ahead and we'll start again. This is good. So far, I've known every rhythm here. I haven't had to reset or do something behind the scenes. Anyway, so I'll give you guys a second to interpret this rhythm. And what do we note about this rhythm right away? Well, we can see that the heart rate is at 72 beats per minute. We can see that we have a upright P wave. There's only one P wave. It matches with the QRS complex. The QRS complex is nice and tight. The P wave is less than 0.2 seconds. I can kind of tell by just glancing. It's less than one big box away. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this is actually a sinus rhythm. And it is very easy. Again, we can see that the P wave is less than 0.2 seconds because it's less than one big box. The QRS complex, again, nice and tight. So we're really happy with that. Let's go again. Okay, so what's this rhythm? This is a good rhythm. I think I know the answer to this one. So just giving you a second to kind of interpret it. Again, if you need to pause it before I start mentioning what's going on, feel free to do so. But okay, so we can see that we have these P waves, we have our QRS complex, and what's really interesting about this rhythm, and I'm doing this in real time, by the way, is that the P waves are matching up with the QRS complex each time. You see how it matches every single time. But sometimes we have this abnormality where we're going to have multiple P waves, right? We can see we have 2 here, we have 3 here. Very odd. It's almost like it's kind of skipping a little bit. With that being the case, we're going to say that it's a second degree heart block type 2, and it is. If it's a type 1, what we can normally see is it kind of matches up in some sense, but the P wave isn't going to match up with the QRS complex, right? It's going to be spaced out a little bit. Why would I say it's not a third degree heart block? Well, it's because the P wave will have its time where it's matching the QRS complex. If it was never matching up with the QRS complex, then it would break Rule 5 in our rules of interpretation. And I think, okay, it's a third degree heart block where the P waves match with the P wave, the QRS complexes match with the QRS complexes, but the P waves do not match with the QRS complexes. So in this case, they do, which would keep me away from a third degree heart block. So let's keep it going. This is a garbage rhythm. I'm not interpreting this rhythm. What is this, like a sinus exit block or something, or sinus arrest? I'm going to say it's a sinus arrest. Sinus exit block. We don't care about these rhythms. I reviewed over these rhythms, but honestly, if you interpreted this as sinus arrhythmia, I think you'd be just fine. I've never really had to learn this through medic school. And I think if you're a cardiologist or somebody who works in a cardiac ICU, you should know this rhythm. For me personally, it's not really the end of the world for me to not know it. So I'm okay not knowing it. What about this one, though? I do need to know this rhythm. So I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it. It's not good. So if you take a look at this rhythm, the heart rate is extremely fast. It's at 210 beats per minute. And what can we really notice about it? Well, we can't distinguish a P wave, right? We have this extremely wide QRS complex, and then that's it. And it's very fast. So right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and say that this is ventricular tachycardia. Now, what's really important? What is the most pertinent thing you need to do whenever you have a patient presenting in this rhythm? At least for test questions. In real life, it's fairly obvious. It's to check a pulse on this patient, because we don't know if this is pulseless VTAC or if this is a patient with VTAC with a pulse. Because if it's pulseless VTAC, then we're going to need to go ahead and consider shocking the patient going through a cardiac arrest rhythm. However, patients can have this rhythm for a short period of time and still have a pulse. And if that's the case, we're going to go with a completely different algorithm depending on our patient. Now, what's really interesting about this is it almost looks like tombstones. We can almost write RIP in each tombstone. So that's kind of how I remember that this is VTAC. So I hope you got it. But we'll go ahead and go do our, I want to say this is going to be our last rhythm. Let me check something. Maybe we got about another 1 or 2 rhythms left in us. So we're going to go ahead and start again. Now, what is this rhythm? I'll give you a moment to think about it while I walk away to drink some water. So what's going on with this rhythm? So one of the things that I like to do is I like to check the P wave. Is the P wave upright? Well, it's not upright in every single one of our beats. The QRS complex is nice and tight. The P wave matches with the QRS complex, but again, it's just kind of abnormal. It's upright sometimes, it's down, inverted sometimes. So what would I call this rhythm? Well, I'd call it a wandering pacemaker, right? Because we sometimes have upright P waves, sometimes we have inverted P waves, which is very abnormal. Our QRS complexes, for the most part, match up with each other. We can see there's an elongated one here, but this is just a very funky rhythm. But the P wave is what leads me to believe this is a wandering pacemaker. So, hope you guys got that one. We're going to go over our last rhythm for today. So, we'll see how this goes. That's a good one. So I'll give you a moment to think about it, and already you should know what this rhythm is if you're advanced enough at your EKG skills, but don't feel bad if you don't know it. Okay, so we have a heart rate at 54 beats per minute. That's already pretty slow. We can look and we have an upright P wave. There's only one P wave. This is our T wave over here. For each beat, we have our nice and tight QRS complex. The P waves match with the QRS complexes. The P waves match with the P waves. The QRSs match with the QRSs. So what am I going to call this rhythm, guys? I'm going to call it sinus bradycardia. So very easy. I just thought this would be a lot of fun, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to be doing a lot more EKG content because I think it's a really interesting topic. But if you guys have any questions or anything, or if you want to go over anything, please let me know. Thank you so much for our channel members. I really appreciate it. It helps the channel out a lot. If you want to consider joining the Discord, go ahead and join the Discord. I'll leave a link in the description below. I'll also leave a link to our NREMT test prep website, which is a lot of fun. And you know what? I'll even leave a link to SkillStat too, because I think that they made a really amazing product to review. But with that being said, if you did like this video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing. It helps the algorithm a lot. It helps me a lot. But with that being said, guys, I will see you on the next one. See ya.